Welcome, guys. My name is Clint. We're here with Dion Hutton this morning, one of our good friends. Going to talk a little bit about finances and budgeting, and I hope you guys are ready for this. We're going to talk about amazing stuff, and we're going through epidemic, so why not talk about budget and how we can get through this financially? Welcome, Dion. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do for a living?
Morning, Clint. I've been very fortunate. I spent 40 years in the financial services industry.
Yeah.
And through the years, I've seen a lot. And I think what's pertinent about the whole process about budgeting is the fact that the same 5% of the people that budgeted when I started the industry in the early 80s are the same 5% people that can actually retire today.
Sure.
So it's a necessary habit. So the question you asked is, what is a budget? Right? It's very simple. It's a management tool for your finances. Keeps you accountable, whether it's to yourself or to others. But now the big thing is, people don't want a budget. But let me ask you a quick question. Do you one day want to be wealthy?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody wants to be wealthy. But the only method to wealth is to actually start with a budget. Because a budget gives you the tool to manage your money. It gives you the method to control your debts. And it gives you the process to actually create wealth one day. So all of it hangs together and all of it starts with a budget. It's actually frightening how easy it is to bring an entire world economy to a halt. We've just seen that with this pandemic.
Yes.
The fact that it's over-exaggerated is true, but the fact of the matter is they did manage to close the entire world down economically.
Sure. Yeah, that's true.
So by closing the world down economically, they've closed you down personally, economically. And you're possibly going to feel the effect much longer.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about a ripple effect. So I think we would achieve a lot if we can acquire budgeting as a habit from today. I know most people, especially now even, they will quickly look at their budgets because they want to see if they can afford the new car with a reduction in interest rates and things like that.
Yeah.
I can actually now buy a better car, can buy a better motorcycle, all that type of stuff. Guys, those are errors. What we should rather do is acquire the habit of being able to save more from our budget so that we can create wealth. Because that's what you said you wanted to do.
Yeah.
And the killer on a budget, and we'll see that today when we talk about it, how do I correct a budget? When we look at the expenses that occurs inside a budget, we'll see most of them are there to cover debts.
Yeah. So talking about debts, here's a budget. A basic budget, we know we've got income and we've got expenses. Okay. So I think on all of our minds is we look at our expenses, we know that our income is X amount, but we're looking at these expenses and we're saying, okay, Dion, how do I manage these expenses? What is becoming important? What must I maybe look at reducing or getting rid of? Can you maybe just explain to us a little bit about the two different income and our expenses, and then how we can categorize our expenses so that we have more of an overview about our budget?
Okay, very interesting. Now, there are only two elements in the budget, and the one is income and the other one's expenses.
Yes.
That's very rudimentary. And what we're looking at today is a rudimentary budget, and how do we manipulate a rudimentary budget. However, everybody that's going to take up this challenge, they're going to work on a process of actually refining a budget.
Yeah.
That I'll be building into a course over time. So we'll notify the people who subscribe that we'll notify you when the other elements do become available. But it's in that refined budget that you're truly going to create your wealth. But here's the important rule that very few people abide by. The expenses exceed the income. And that's why they then step into things like personal loans, going into their credit cards and things like that. Here's the one golden rule of a budget. Income must at all times exceed expenses. So that's what we need to do. So in this particular time, what happens is our expenses are balancing with our income,
Yeah.
and that's the need of this program today. And so what we've now got to do is there's very little opportunity of increasing income. In fact, income's decreasing. People are taking 20%, 30% salary cuts. Some people are being made redundant, they're losing their jobs and things like that. So suddenly your income is either halved or it's gone. So what do I do with a budget? And those are the things we're going to look at today.
Awesome. So, okay, let's look at this budget. Guys, in the link in the bio, you will find a link to this budget that we're going to show you right now. And we're going to work through a basic budget. And Dion, you'll show us how this budget works. So guys, stay tuned. Here's the budget.
Right. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the budget. We're going to look at the budget as it was directly before lockdown, right? Everything balanced only just or just not.
Yeah.
Now what's happened is we then went into lockdown. People know that we had to cut our salaries. And what we're going to look at in this rudimentary budget of ours is we're going to look at the situation. Here's the before picture, and here's the picture as it was imposed on us now with a reduced income.
Yes.
Now, a lot of the places have come around and they have said, okay, we will be willing to assist with your bond. We will be willing to assist with your motor car repayments, things like that. What people must understand, and that's why I'm saying it's a ripple effect, and the budget is going to start today, but you're going to have to continue with this budget. When they reduce your house payment, doesn't mean they've given you the house payment for the 3 months. It simply means that this 3 months will have to be caught up during the period of this loan.
Yes.
So possibly at the end of this, you're going to find that your repayment on your house bond, your repayment on your car, all of those items are in fact going to increase. That's not our concern today. We'll see how we cope with those in later episodes. However, for today, we're just going to concentrate on those things. Now, in that budget, there are certain compulsories, certain what we call non-negotiables. And it's very unfortunate that your home, that is your biggest asset, they're willing to come to the party. But you look at the local councils, it's actually disgraceful, the guys that supply us with our utilities, and they're not coming to the party at all.
Yeah.
In our area, I received an SMS the other day, said I've got to pay there, and there. They are closed down, but I've got to pay there, and there, and if I don't pay, they will actually cut off my power.
Sure.
So power utilities is a non-negotiable, right? So when we look at our budget, we'll see, we identify those non-negotiables, and we can't move on them at all. So they've got to remain in the budget exactly for the figure they are at the moment. But the other ones, we'll see how we'll move them around in our budget sheet and the arrangements that we're going to make with them to at least make sure that we've got a budget that now balances. That's going to give our people courage to actually continue along this path. And then the rest really becomes negotiable, only because the people made an offer that it is negotiable.
Okay.
All right, so as I've said, Clint, this is where we start with a budget. I worked on a very rudimentary budget, not to frighten anybody, just working on a 30,000 household income.
Yes.
Very important matter, this. Too often do we work, you've got your income, I've got my income. Really, that should end, especially in difficult times.
Yeah.
So the salary we're talking about is a combined salary. Then you also make allowance for moonlighting, rentals, interest, and other income.
Okay.
Because if you're living off interest income, you'll also see that that's dropped just because of the repo rate dropped.
Yes.
What, 2.5%? 2.75% over the past period? It's a lot of a drop. So the people that live off interest are actually also suffering right now. Right, so we're just working roughly on a budget of 30,000, and then there are all those expenses. You've got a bond of about 7,000. You've got rent of 3,000. I especially brought a rental figure in also, just to show, because the negotiations are going to be different on that particular one than it would be on the others.
So some people won't have a rental, maybe another property they're renting, so they won't have that on their budget.
Yeah.
But this is just for someone maybe that has a property, let's say at Durban, and he's got a house up here in Joburg, and this is how his budget will probably look like. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I'm typically thinking about rentals. People with additional cars, people with additional furniture, all that type of stuff.
Okay.
They're paying rent.
Oh, understandable.
Or they're paying rent for their mother to live in an old age home. It's all those type of things.
Understandable.
The tenants are naughty people. They think because they're not earning an income, they don't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
It's not true. Straight after the lockdown, you will possibly be put out if you're not paying your rent.
Sure.
Right. So then we look at the adjusted budget. So we've got exactly all the same expenses as you can see on the screen. Then we go to the adjusted budget. So all the expenses remain the same.
Yeah.
However, now with the adjustment of salary, so your salary has gone from 30,000 to 15,000. Now suddenly you've got a 14,800 rand deficit in your budget. Now, most people are sweating when they hear that and see that. So in the next one, we'll then actually start doing some adjustments.
Yes.
And this is where the hope comes in and the promise comes in. So what I've done here is I've just made my own, you can make your own headings. It's a deferred heading, it's a reduced heading, it's a cancelled heading, and it's a arrangement heading.
Okay.
So just typically all that means is certain expenses you can defer, others you can really reduce, like my food budget. I can possibly reduce that. And then there's certain things that I can totally cancel. And then there are other areas that I've got to make arrangements, like with my bond repayments.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that increase that you've got there. I see it's a nice yellow color, so it most probably important. Can you just give us a little bit of some body on that?
All right. Being in the financial services industry, I've now suddenly realized that in talking to people, they now realize their medical aid is insufficient, so they're going to need gap cover.
Yeah.
Because the guy's also thinking and he's feeling vulnerable, he realizes I've got insufficient life cover if anything should happen to me, because COVID is a reality or possible reality.
Yes.
And I see my family will not be able to survive. So what I'm talking about there is mostly on insurance items where I need an increase. And the other interesting thing is, and I've just developed a product for that, is legal support.
Okay.
Because believe me, after this, when everything starts going better, all these creditors and things are going to come down on you.
They're going to want their money.
Absolutely. And you're going to need someone to defend you.
Yeah.
So that could be another possibility, looking at that sort of type of insurances.
So John, just before you start, so now we know that the interest rate has fallen. So my car is a little bit cheaper. My bond is maybe a little bit cheaper. So I've got a little bit of extra money now. Would you also just explain to us how we must be careful of that extra maybe that's going to be left, or what must we do with what's left?
All right, I'm going to answer that, but what I want to show you first is how we're going to shift these things.
Let's do that.
Because that's at this stage we're still 14,800 rand short.
Okay.
Right. So the one thing we can do, and we heard that the banks were very kind, which is very strange, but we can move that figure into our arranged.
So that's our bond, right?
So there's the bond. So
Yes.
suddenly my negative balance has dropped to 7,800.
Rand.
All right. Now we spoke about the rentals. Now this you've got to make an arrangement for. You're going to defer a portion of that. So let's assume we can defer 1,000 rand.
Okay.
So that means the actual rent payable is going to go down to 2,000 rand. So we've now dropped another 1,000 rand at the bottom.
Yes.
Remember utilities I said? Non-negotiable. And the other two non-negotiables, I highlighted them the same color, is your data and your cell phone. Because those are the things that's keeping you in contact. And if you're working from home, those are the things that make sure you can.
And a lot of companies are doing that right now.
Correct. then if we go down the list, the food, right? If we start cutting luxuries, I know it's hard, but sometimes you've got to cut hard on certain things. So let's say 3,200, maybe you stopped smoking. So I'm cancelling 800 Rand out of my food budget.
Okay.
I'm just making sure it keeps on balancing. We'll
Yes.
see why that's important later. School. It's a bit of an unfortunate one for the schools. Sorry, guys, but we defer it. We might spread it into the balance of the year or whatever
Yeah.
the case may be. So we're now down to 4,900 Rand loss on our budget. Here's a nice one. I did this personally. That was rental for a well-known subscribed TV. Can't mention their name. I don't really want to mention their name. But I went off them, so I cancelled 900 Rand of theirs. And all I did is I retained an expense of 100 Rand. And I don't mind saying for what that is. That's for Netflix.
Okay.
So I now watch Netflix. I'll take my wife to the movies every night.
Awesome.
And we have popcorn and everything. So we love it. Right? The car is another one that I can move across.
That was the arrangement. Banks came to the
Yes.
party there as well.
Okay, now also here's another one. I left that, I put in car 2, although there's no payment on that.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you need money, you can possibly refinance on that. So that's
Okay.
why I've left it there. All right, then the short-term insurance. Now, this is if you were the traditional insurers. I've not seen that from the new type of insurers. But every single one of the traditional insurance, the well-known names, the Santoms, the Old Mutual Insurance, Hollard, places like that, all of them gave about a 25% discount to their clients,
Sure.
20 to 25% discount. So what happened there is this premium would have gone down to about 1.1,
Yeah.
but it was just a reduction because I'll possibly pick it up again
Yes.
later.
Yes.
So we put the reduction in there of 300 Rand, and suddenly I've got 100 Rand left in my budget. Suddenly my budget balances. However, I can actually put extra money into the budget.
Yeah.
You asked the question earlier, what do I do with the extra money? And the big thing is on the fuel, you might be only using 200 Rands worth of fuel. And again, that's just a reduction because it's going to come back again later. So we've now got 1,800.
Okay.
So we've now put 1,900 back into.
to our pockets.
Right. I've just put other here, 1,000 Rand, but yours might be much larger. That will be credit cards, personal loans, all those type of things.
Okay.
Stuff that's important to you. So you just summarize what you put into other, and then you balance the budget. So what I've done here is I've now said with a medical aid cover, that's just the co-payments. I'm assuming medical aid's paid by your company. And this is the area where I'm now coming in with life insurance. And I say for all the insurance items,
Yes.
I'm going to spend another 500 Rand. Because I've scored 900 Rand down here.
Yeah.
So I'm putting 500 Rand back into it. So my less increase and my new balance is now 1,400 Rand.
Okay.
How do you feel about that? Is that giving you hope?
This
Clint?
is giving me a lot of hope.
Okay,
This is
fantastic.
giving me a lot of hope.
Then just the last point on each one of the things you do, because you've got to remain accountable
Yeah.
and you've got to continue and you've got to talk to the people afterwards. And I'm suggesting that you do just stick in there a control amount.
So this is on the 4th page of the
Yeah.
of the budget.
That's on the 4th page of the budget. And that gives you your control amount just to make sure that you picked up all the expenses that
Yes.
you did. And then the other thing is the very important thing about notes. So under the bond, I said FNB gave me a 3-month extension on my
Yes.
bond.
Yes.
I signed an AOD for 6 months with the rental company.
Okay.
That's part of my arrangement. And then with the food budget, I cut the luxuries. Clothing, I'll pay later. Schooling, I will make arrangements with them when they open up again. And that's really how I've balanced my budget.
Okay. This is so awesome looking at this budget, and this is very helpful. It's something that's very easy to use. It's something that I really feel that that you can manage and you can really have your hand on your finances. So, what are the things not to do in this time? I'm sitting with extra money in my bank account. Now, obviously, I want to go and spend because some of us are, when we feel sad, we spend. When we're happy, we spend. Some of us spend because we can, or we feel that we need something because we've got extra. What are the do's and the don'ts? Or what's more the don'ts? What shouldn't I do in this time with my budget, even if there's extra money? What's the don'ts? What must I stay away of? What must I maybe try to be accountable to someone with my money? Maybe just say, okay, please stop me so I don't do something stupid.
Okay. For now, new credit agreements, absolute out.
Stay away.
You know, you can talk to people. What is the best house and what is the best car? They both have the same answer. The ones that are paid for.
Yes.
So if we acquire this as a habit, we don't know whether there's going to be a COVID-20, COVID-21. We will just perpetuate the problem if we keep on going into more debts, into more credit arrangements and things like that. Get out of them, guys. If your rental is too high and you've got the fortunate position where you can rent for lower, I've already seen that with some of my own tenants. They are leaving my properties and they're actually going to go to cheaper properties.
Yeah.
Because I just can't afford it anymore. Fortunately, there are guys paying more than they are paying, and I'm getting those guys back into my properties.
Yes.
So they're still letting. So that's very fortunate. So, so that's essentially what you mustn't do.
Yeah.
What you must do is that 1,400 rand or whatever it was that we were accumulating.
Yes.
Please accumulate that into a separate account. All
Okay.
right? Because it always appears that things can't get worse than they do. So always build yourself a buffer. Just as a rule of thumb, all good businesses, those good businesses that are continuing to pay their staff at the moment, are typically the businesses that run on what started as an American model, where you actually have 3 to 6 months of income banked somewhere.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen the American movies and they said they had to break into the Children's College Fund.
Yes.
Have you ever heard that remark?
Heard that, yeah.
So it actually proves that the Americans always have a portion that they're actually saving towards their children's college education one
Yes.
day. So that's really what we've got to do. We've got to build up. And it simply means that you've got to try and build up 3 months worth of expenses or 6 months worth of expenses into your budget and have that as a savings account somewhere. And you're not going to run into too much trouble. A lot of things we haven't got included here is your regular car licensing, car servicing. None of that's in here. So we've got to do reserving for that. That I will deal with in the courses that I'm going to launch.
Yeah.
And they'll be available on video on this platform, and it will also be made available as a course,
Okay.
which you can attend.
Last but not least, it's the end of COVID-19, and some of us maybe have extra money left, but we're looking at the future now. We want to retire. How is that going to look like? Can you just give us a little bit of a nugget? What can we do with our extra money, with the money that's from our new budget, with our new habits? How we can start putting stuff away because you said only 3% of people will be able to retire. So can you maybe just give us a little bit of good advice where to go to?
Right at the beginning of the video, I mentioned that the budget is your management tool.
Yes.
And it's also the one that's going to take control of your debts, and it's also the one that's there for wealth creation.
Yes.
So your ultimate goal has to be wealth creation. So in this particular budget, we've got no wealth creation. Under the life insurance, we've got wealth protection.
Yes.
In other words, if I don't live long enough, at least my family's going to have enough life insurance to take care of them for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
Put my children through school, all the rest. However, we haven't done wealth creation. So just to understand going forward, out of all of this, 15% of the 30,000 Rand we have as an income, that's about 4,500, that has to go towards your wealth creation. And once we launch the courses,
Yes.
we will take it methodically through from doing the budget, working the budget correctly, getting rid of debts, even house and car debts, as we've got here, and then actually How do we use that money to create wealth? Just look at it very carefully. Your bond is 7,000 Rand, your car is 3,200 Rand.
Yes.
How much is that?
That's
10,200.
10,200, yeah.
Right. So we've got 10,200. So don't tell me you can't afford 4,500. All you've got to do is spend 5,500 on cars and homes, and then you can do it. So that will be the challenge, and we'll show you how to do that into the future.
Okay. Guys, just before we close the video, I just want to give you opportunity. You've got 30 seconds. Please just tell us what you are busy with, what we can look out for. Maybe you can give us your Facebook page. Maybe you can give us anything where if someone wants to contact you, we're giving you the spotlight here. Go for it.
All right, guys. Just very quickly, I'm very compassionate about these particular things. I wrote for the Star newspaper for 9.5 years on these 3 subjects. Budgeting, debt management, and wealth creation. So I love it, and I will teach you all that I know through the various courses that I'm going to conduct. However, then there's a second aspect, and that's the one about creating new income. A lot of people are going to be bound to homes. A lot of people are going to have reduced income. They're going to need to supplement income. And that can happen through new initiatives. And I'm launching such new initiatives. I spoke about the legal insurance.
Yeah.
I've just launched a legal insurance product that will be sold through a call center, but it'll also be made available on other forums, websites, or whatever. So people can do that. You can refer people, then earn an income off it. So that becomes a method of actually generating income.
Yeah.
So I'm working on all these various aspects. And yes, just follow this video, and we'll make you aware of each of these things. And then obviously I've also mentioned it already, we'll be conducting a course on the 3 various aspects. That will come at a cost, because you will add value to those things, and we'll have forums, discussion groups, webinars, whatever, just to make the people very strong, and hopefully raise the 5% that can retire one day to 10%.
Okay. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If this was helpful, please leave a comment, press the like button, or come in contact with us. All the best, guys. Look after yourself, be safe, look after your pocket, look after your family, and make sure that you are wealthy.
Cheers, guys. Nice meeting you.